Diego Pavia is the tip of the spear. Now, can Vandy waltz into Austin and crush the Longhorns? That's a golden question.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making us part of your day. Thanks for making us your first listen. Now, on today's show, we got a lot to talk about. Mason Lewis commits. DB out of Arizona was once committed to Cal back in the summer. He has now since switched. He flipped over the weekend to Vanderbilt. We'll break him down. Arch Manning is in the concussion protocol. We'll talk about what Matthew Caldwell brings for the Longhorns and how they can kind of maneuver around Arch being on the injured list. But first, I want to talk about what Diego Pavia means in this game. And I want to talk about what Steve Sarkisian said about him and just kind of the overall impact that Pavia has on this team and has on this matchup. Now, thanks, like I said, thanks for making us part of your day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Let's start with Sarkisian. He had his press conference. He had his weekly press conference, and he was very complimentary of Diego Pavia. Called him the tip of the spear, even. And I've got a part of his quote because he went on to say a bunch of things. I'm not going to put that all on one page because you guys don't have time to read all that. But he was very, very complimentary, and I think what Diego Pavia, the impact that he has on this matchup, I think is tremendous because Texas has, this will be the first real test that they have with a quarterback like Diego Pavia. Now, they're going to have to face Marcel Reed later in the season. They're going to have to face Gunnar Stockton, who can do some of the things that Pavia can do as well. So that's something that, they're going to look at this matchup with Diego Pavia and try to figure out how they can stop these type of quarterbacks. DJ Lagway is not much of a runner. I mean, he can run, but he's not much of a runner at all. But he was able to sit back and carve them up as well. And then Julian Sayin, again, not a huge runner, can make things happen if he has to, but that's not what he predicates on. So this will be the first real running quarterback they face. So it's a situation where Sarkisian he was very complimentary. Like I said, here's what he had to say. He said, quote, "Obviously the quarterback is the tip of the spear. He's one of the more competitive players that I've competed against. He's their leading rusher. He obviously passes the ball. He makes plays at critical moments when they need to have it. So he's a guy that, all the praise that he's getting is well-deserved." So that was the gist of what he was saying. He went on to kind of back that up further with quotes. And some of the things that he said was he's a very good football player. And I think one thing about playing quarterback, it's not always about the passes you throw. It's not always about the runs you make. It's about instilling belief in your teammates and instilling belief in your organization and instilling belief in your fan base. And I think Diego Pavia has done that for that program. So all the credit in the world to him, all the credit in the world to Clark Lee and the start that they've had this season. So one thing that strikes me is this. They ain't overlooking Vanderbilt this year. And they beat them. And, they're Texas, and it would be very easy for them to say, oh, it's just Vanderbilt. They're saying, well, Vanderbilt. But Vanderbilt comes in ranked 9th in the country in the AP poll, 11th if you look at the coaches poll, depending on what poll you look at. So I guess a composite of 10, I guess if you want to do that whole thing. But, this is something that they're going to have to prepare for. They're going to have to unload a lot of game planning defensively around Diego Pavia. And he's somebody that will keep you up at night. He's somebody that he's the type of quarterback, and the offense is designed around him so perfectly that defensive coordinators struggle to figure out, okay, well, how do we, they have so many things off so many things. How do we manage all of that? And that's something that I think that he has an impact on because it's going to be tough to defend him because they have to spend so much time figuring out, okay, well, when they motion here, they motion, like trying to figure out tendencies, or they're just going to say, okay, we're going to make you pass it. And I think they're going to maybe try to, come after him and try to set the edges. But honestly, Texas does not have, I think Missouri has the best edge players, the best edge duo in the entire conference with Damon Wilson and Zion Young. Like there's like, you got one on either side. Now, for Texas, Ethan Burke, here's a quick list of their notable players. I'll get back to this eval in a second. Ethan Burke is going to draw the assignment of containing Diego Pavia. He's going to draw the assignment of setting the edge for Diego Pavia. Now, it's going to be up to the rest of the guys to kind of be able to cover the different run lanes, be gap or have gap integrity, I should say, and just be able to be mindful of the other things that could happen, like MK Young bouncing one for 80 yards or Cedric Alexander ripping it up the gut for, whatever chunk play or 65-yarder he had against Alabama. So, like, this Texas defense can't be comfortable with this Vanderbilt offense. Diego Pavia in this offense is the type of offense that makes you stay up at night. And that's where I think, you have all of these things that Steve Sarkisian is saying. He's kind of laying it all out there without kind of really realizing. But he said that, he's somebody that he has layers you have to prepare for. One is the pass game. And one is tight ends, which I think is going to be a secret weapon here. They've got to be able to get Stowers more involved and Cole Spence more involved. I think once they can do that, they can open up so many different possibilities. The option game, putting guys in conflict, like this is not a comfortable offense to defend. And it's and then you have all of those layers of scheme. You have all of the shovel, the slants, the RPOs, the seams, all of that stuff, the jet sweeps, the jet reads. You have all of the option plays that you have that they have at their disposal. They have all the movement. They have the 12 personnel, 13 personnel, 20 personnel. Like they have different packages for a lot of different things. You have all of that to defend on top of when the wheels fall off. Diego Pavia is one of the best in the country at making something out of nothing. That's that idiom that everybody loves to use, making chicken salad out of chicken, the rest. Like that's what Diego Pavia is good at. That's where he's dangerous. And that's what is scary about this Vanderbilt team for Steve Sarkisian when he's thinking about defending this. He's thinking about, okay, we've got to stop this. We got to stop that. We got to stop this. We got to stop that. And then when we do stop all that, we got to stop Diego Pavia when he ad-libs. And so that's a challenge in and of itself. Alabama was able to get Vanderbilt out of what they wanted to do. LSU was not really. Missouri, to a certain degree, was, but Vanderbilt just kept hammering. Vanderbilt wasn't successful in doing what they wanted to do, but they never really got out of it. And I think ultimately that's kind of how they won and kind of got the momentum back a little bit as well. So it's just when you look at the way Diego Pavia plays, when you look at how he inspires the guys around him, I mean, this offensive line just plays relentlessly because of Diego Pavia. And it's a treat to watch if you like offensive line play. These backs run so much harder. The chemistry of the option plays where he has to ride the ball into the A gap and pull it at the last second, like that chemistry between him and Seti is like clockwork when he's trying to run the option game. The fake pitches, the pump fakes 5 yards downfield when they know he can't throw, they still fall for it. They still jump and he goes around him. And then, his just ability that he's just going to run through a brick wall. Like if he's trying to cross the goal line and you're in his way, well, he's just going to run right through you. And he's going to do whatever he can do to get in that end zone. And Texas almost learned that the hard way last year. I think without an electric second quarter, they would have. But Texas kind of poured it on in the second half or in the second quarter and early third. And then once Vanderbilt was able to get up and going or get back up and going, it was too little too late. So this is a team that starts faster. This is a team that's more experienced. This is a team that knows what they want to do identity-wise even better than they did last year. They're a little bit more explosive, or they're not a little bit, they're a lot more explosive than they were a year ago. A year ago, they were way more methodical because they had to be. But this time around, they've got some explosiveness to them as well that can be kind of scary. So there's a lot of elements to this offense, and Steve Sarkisian knows it. And so he's tip of the spear. He's, is Texas afraid? I mean, I don't know if afraid is the right word, but like, hey, Vandy's here, and they're coming to Austin, and that's something they have to contend with. And so this matchup with Diego Pavia versus this defense, or Vandy's offense versus Texas's defense, is predicated on how well can Diego Pavia get ingrained into the game. How well can he integrate Eli Stowers and Cole Spence into the game plan, into the flow of the game? How well can Tim Beck maneuver all these pieces around? Can he get Texas defenders moving around? Can he get them trying to communicate and all that stuff? Because when you're playing defense, the crowd noise affects the defense's ability to communicate as well. And if Vanderbilt can do things quietly, if they can move guys around, if Diego Pavia can maestro this thing like he has been, this could be dangerous, because that home crowd will limit the defense's communication. And if they have to communicate too much, that's where busts happen. So this is a defense that they gave up 38 points against Mississippi State. Now, they're very good. They're dynamite against the run. But they're going to be tested this week against Vanderbilt. I can assure you that. So Arch Manning's in protocol. Matthew Caldwell is going to start. How does that look? How does this team look? How does this team stack up? They're 2.5-point favorites in Austin. Texas is 2.5-point favorites in Austin. We're going to break them down specifically next. But first, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. That's correct, man. This is an exciting football season, and now the NBA is getting cranked back up. And there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game very exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC. If you need a second listen, check him out. He does a great job covering this entire conference, and we also squad up every Thursday, so be sure to check that out. That's always a lot of fun. Now, looking at Texas, okay, we looked at what Sark's opinion of Diego Pavia is. We looked at the impact that Diego Pavia has on this matchup. Now, here's a look at Texas. Now, what stands out to me about Texas is this. They've been an enigma as a team this season. The offense has struggled to produce versus Power 4 opponents, and when they do, it's not on a consistent basis. And it's not for lack of talent, but believed to be subpar offensive line play. Replacing 4 starters is tough. Now, again, that's the Texas that I've seen, is that they've struggled to protect Arch Manning. He struggled with his reads. They haven't been able to run the ball consistently enough to really be the team that they probably should be. A team that blows out Kentucky, a team that blows out Mississippi State, a team that doesn't lose to Florida. But they've done all of those things. Now, they've still only lost 2 games. They've still only lost 2 games. So when you look at how they've been producing and how they've been winning, it makes you scratch your head a little bit. And so that's something that's strange for this team, is like, how are they winning? They're being opportunistic. They're great in the second half. So they're getting settled in. They're making whatever adjustments they need to make, and they're making sure that they take care of business in the second half. They went off in the second half against Mississippi State. Mississippi State could not finish them off. And that was troubling there. Now, when you look at the rest of this thing, Sark will need to find an identity, and he will need to find it quick. Matthew Caldwell is getting the start over an injured Arch Manning. Arch Manning is in concussion protocol as he suffered a concussion against Mississippi State right there in overtime. Matthew Caldwell actually threw the game-winning pass. The run game should prop up the offense here. Trey Wisner, CJ Baxter, they get CJ Baxter back, so they have quite a good duo at the running back position. But when you look at the offensive line play, how is that going to affect things? And how is Vanderbilt's defense going to affect what this offense is trying to do? So we'll talk about that here in just a second. All right, defensively, again, like I said, the Longhorns are very tough versus the run. They collected 7 sacks against Mississippi State. They're performing pretty well on defense, but again, I think it's inconsistent because the offense is inconsistent. Because I think sometimes they're being left in bad situations. I think sometimes they're just being left out there too long. They had to play, I think, 82 plays against Mississippi State. They hung on, but they had a play in special teams that really sparked that run, and Mississippi State kind of sort of blew it there at the end. So what is this team? That's the golden question is, what is this team? Who are they? Because you see a really good second half performance against Mississippi State, and you're like, okay, Texas is for real. They have all that talent. This is how they should be playing. But you see the first half. You see the game against Kentucky. You see what they did against Florida and getting shelled. You see some of their other results. They struggle to get out of the gates is what I see as well. They've struggled to get out of the gates against a lot of teams. Ohio State just kind of controlled that game from the start in the opener. They struggled in their next 4. Not if you look at final scores, they didn't struggle, but when you watch those games, they struggled out of the gates. They struggled to find a rhythm. And then I think they finally did. And talent just kind of took over in those like San Jose State type games. So like I said, it's a weird team. It's a weird team because they're good. They should be really good. They're just not all the time. But they're notable players. This week it's Matthew Caldwell. He's replacing Arch Manning. Trey Wisner, CJ Baxter at the running back position. That should be a pretty tangible duo there. Ryan Wingo, top receiver. He should be electric. They're going to look to find him. But it's going to be, again, what this defense or what this offense can do to try to find an identity and try to find what Matthew Caldwell does well. On defense, Ethan Burke is the edge player. He's probably going to be the most important player on that defense, and not saying that nobody else on that defense is important, but he's probably drawing the assignment of Diego Pavia, as I talked about in the first segment. And then, of course, punt returner Ryan Niblett. Just don't punt to him. Vanderbilt, if you have to punt, you would be better off shanking it than to kick it to him, because he will house it on you. He housed it on Oklahoma. He housed it against Kentucky. He housed it against Mississippi State. I think he housed. No. Did he house one against Kentucky? I think he did. I'm not sure. I have to look that up. I don't really care. But he's electric. He's dynamic. Do not punt him. So when you look at this team, you have to look at those type of things. Like, what do you do defensively for Vanderbilt? Matthew Caldwell, new starter. What Sark said about Matthew Caldwell starting is he's a veteran guy and he's comfortable. But again, he is, as of right now, it looks like he's going to play. So we're going to focus on Matthew Caldwell, but because I'm not sure that Arch Manning is going to be well enough to get enough reps this week for him to feel good with him as a starter. They're going to keep evaluating him, but I just don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to play. It's looking not so I guess not so possible. But when you talk about Matthew Caldwell, right? The thing that Sark said is, for Matt, he's a very even keel guy. That's what he said. He said, quote, I think the good thing for Matt, he's a very even keel guy. He doesn't get too up, doesn't get too down. So it doesn't get rattled too much. You have, I think the key is going to be, well, the defense is going to have to pick him up for sure. Special teams is going to have to pick him up for sure. Okay. Those things are obvious, right? But what they're going to really have to do offensively is, I'm not sure that you can do everything. I'm not sure you can just roll out the Arch Manning offense with that. I think you have to. They're trying, and I think part of Texas's problems offensively, part of the issues that they do have when they have them, is that I think it's an identity thing. I think it's them trying to figure out, okay, are we going to be a spread team? Are we going to be a run-based RPO team? Are we going to control it? Are we going to go fast? Are we going to be explosive? Are we going to be a combination of both? Or what are we going to do? Who are we? What are we going to be? It just feels like when you watch Texas, that's the question you're constantly seeing them trying to answer. What are we? And what they are is trying to replace some stud offensive linemen that they lost in the NFL draft. What they are is they were trying to figure out what they had in the run game, and all they had was Trey Wisner, and they didn't really have much else. And they had a struggling quarterback who it seemed like the game was just moving too fast for him. And now he's in concussion protocol, so you're going to see what you have in Matthew Caldwell and this aforementioned or this whatever quarterback controversy that seems to be drummed up. I don't know if there actually is one, but if there was one, you're going to see what you have in Matthew Caldwell now. And so if he comes out and plays well, this could get real interesting as far as when Arch Manning is healthy and ready to go. So for Sark and for this team, they've got to find what Matthew Caldwell does well. They've got to figure out spread offense. What do they do? We're going to break that down more throughout the week, but that's just kind of their main goal here as well. So what do they do? But Mason Lewis, here's something. Recruiting update. Mason Lewis commits. It's flip season. We'll break it down next. Before we do that, I want to talk about game time. Yeah. College football's back. NFL's back. NBA's back. NHL's back. A lot of things are back. And I couldn't be more exciting. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like the battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout, all of that stuff, all of that not so fun stuff that happens. You know who doesn't do that? GameTime. And that's why I use GameTime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up GameTime in just a couple taps. I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. And honestly, did you know that you can see the exact view from the seat before you buy? And they have this thing called zone deals. You pick section, GameTime picks the seats, you save big. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's less stressful than any other way that I've bought tickets. It's why I use GameTime. I'm telling you. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download GameTime today. All right, wrapping up the show here. Locked On Vandy, thanks for making us your first listen. Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms is the way to go. We broke down Texas. Diego Pavia striking fear into Texas. Arch Manning's in protocol. What is Matthew Caldwell doing? What does this Texas team look like? All right, but now it's flip season. And there's going to be, with this run that Vanderbilt's on, there's going to be quite a bit of commits that from other places that flip, or quite a bit of people. Maybe Jared Curtis is one of them. I don't know. Well, there's one confirmed, Mason Lewis from Scottsdale, Arizona, and he is from Basha High School. I think he played at Castile High School before. I think it's his first year at Basha. don't have a whole lot of film of him from Basham, but what have seen from him when he was at Castile is this. He's a versatile athlete that will fit in multiple spots in Clark Lea's defense. With his ability to play the ball in the air and his appetite for tackling and supporting the run, Lewis is the Swiss Army knife type player that Clark Lee and Steve Gregory needs. He can play the slot corner in some packages because of his physicality and his ability to run with receivers. He's a total package. He'll come up and tackle in screen situations and can do most things that this defense calls for while allowing the coaches to mix and match personnel. So the key here is versatile, and his skill set is that. Now, like I said, he was committed to Cal and he flipped. Now, this is an exciting commitment because this is a guy that was sure that he was going to Cal to play for Justin Wilcox, who Justin Wilcox is a defensive guru. He was going to play in the mighty ACC while overlooking the Pacific Ocean, which is weird. But he is he's somebody that Clark Lee knew that he wanted. And one of the things that I love is Clark Lee. Well, a lot of these coaches do this, and the star ratings are for the fans, but they recruit talent. They recruit versatile talent because at Vanderbilt, you have to wear a lot of hats. In this defense, you have to wear a lot of hats. It's complex. And with the type of roster you have to be able to move around and play different spots. Like you have to have a guy that can play safety or that can play corner, play slot corner, do whatever you need to do, right? But here is a guy that they stayed on. And persistence pays off, right? Because he left impressed. And he was considering Iowa, he was considering Kansas State, and he also considered UNC. But ultimately he went to Cal. But, they stayed on him. And in this day and age, like with the transfer portal and the rate at which kids are flip-flopping back and forth, it's good to kind of stay with them. Like if a kid commits elsewhere, hey, best of luck. And you just still keep in contact with them. Hey, what's going on? What's good? How you feeling? And you just keep it on. And Coach Melvin Rice is was the lead on this recruitment, and he really coveted Lewis's skill set and being able to play that versatile role of, hey, I can put you back there free safety, or I can drop you down in the slot and you can cover one of their slot receivers. Like there's a bunch of different things you can do. And that's what they liked. And you have Chris Tangelo and you have Bradley Brown, and you're also you got Blake Stewart on the hook as well, who was in the house for the win. He decommitted from Clemson on Monday. So Vanderbilt could get a very big surge in recruiting. But what Mason Lewis said, and this has me very, very fired up, because 2 years ago they wanted to fire Clark Lee. Now Clark Lee's being considered for every SEC job out there, and people are like, you should hire Clark Lee. Well, guess what? He ain't going nowhere. Clark Lee's not going anywhere. But he said, quote, "It gets me extremely excited, and it shows me Coach Lee, Clark Lee, knows what he's doing. Everyone bought into the program over there, and it shows what they're able to do, and something that they're doing is something that hasn't been done before, and I just want to be a part of that." It is visible from outer space, the progress, the overhaul, everything that Vanderbilt is doing to set themselves up as a program to be a viable program down the road, not just this year. Because if you think about it, and I'll leave it with this, Mason Lewis is probably the start of a surge of commits. Now, a lot of commits believed preseason. There was a lot of guys on the commitment list for 26 that believed before the season. There's a whole lot of people that may be reconsidering after watching what this team is able to do. Win or lose on Saturday, no matter how the season finishes up, I think there's a lot of people out there that believe in what this team is doing, and they're bought into what this team's future is. And this is not, and they're going to try to ensure that this is not just a flash in the pan. This is not just a fluke. This is something that's real. And this is something that is to be built upon. And I think that it will. Because if it wasn't, I think you would see that you wouldn't really get much action in recruiting, because kids would be like, yeah, it's kind of phony. I'm going to say what I feel like I need to say to make myself look okay publicly, but really it's just kind of a phony program. And if people knew that, I don't think you decommit from a place like Cal. I don't think you decommit from a place like Clemson and seriously consider Vanderbilt if there's not something special there. So buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride here between now and I guess you could just say signing day now at this point, the early signing period, which is not really the early signing period anymore. It's just, they just moved signing day from February to December, and they had another signing period at February, which you can sign any day after that. So I think early signing period, you get like a 3-day window or something like that to sign, and then it's dead for a while, which is kind of stupid. But anyway, Mason Lewis, welcome aboard. The versatility is great. These defensive backs, I think, are going to be special, and this is going to be a fun ride for what this team is going to do in the future. So welcome aboard, Mason Lewis, flipped from Cal to Vanderbilt. And with that, we're going to flip the calendar on over to tomorrow. Hope you have a nice rest of your day. Hope you enjoyed what you see. Anchor down. Peace.